This is Friday, February 28th, is that right? And we're continuing to work on our review of fractions, decimals, and percents. This is a grade 7 review of the concept. And question number 4, is it question number 4 on our sheet? My correction is 25th today. It says, question number 4 says, what is the cost of a $50 shirt with 15% HST? Now, I know for a fact, the way I'm going to show you right now, none of you have copied down. So I'd like you to grab a pencil, and as we go through this, I want you to copy down my thinking for this so that you can understand a little bit better how to solve this two different ways. So we're going to solve it two ways. We're going to solve it mentally, and we're going to solve it with a calculator. And we have a lot of experience solving it mentally, and we probably all know how to do it. So the easiest way to do it is to figure out, if I'm finding about 15% is equal to 10% plus 5%, right? We all know that. And we know to calculate 10%, since HST is a tax, 10% of $50, we move the decimal one spot over. So if the decimal's here, and we move it one spot over, 10% is $5, so 10% is equal to $5. 5% is what in relation to 10%? Half, right? Since 10% is $5, 5% would be half of that, or $2.50. And when we add them together, you would get $7.50. Now that's the HST. So since the cost of the $50 shirt has to add on $7.50, our final price would be $50 plus $7.50, which equals $57.50. Now most of you probably did it that way. How many of you solved that question like that? Maybe didn't show the work properly, but did that. Yeah. No problem, because it was an easy question to do mentally, right? It wasn't a difficult one. But with a calculator, you could have done the same thing. Now, there's two ways you could do it with a calculator. You can do it in a one-step, or you can do it in a two-step. And a lot of you have probably know how to do it in a one-step, or a two-step, but you probably don't know how to do it in a one-step. So with a two-step equation, we'll do first. If you say, what is 15% of $50? Well, 15%, we all know, is 15 over 100 as a fraction, and as a decimal is 1,500, or 0.15. And we all know from our experience that the word of means multiplication. So technically, if I wanted to determine what 15% of $50 was, I could grab my calculator, say, what's 15% of $50? And it says 7.5, or $7.50. That's the first step. What would the second step be? Taking your $50 and adding your $7.50 and getting the final answer of $57.50. That's two-step. That would be the two-step version. Does anyone know, with a calculator, how I can get the answer of $57.50 without having to do two different operations, without having to do multiplication by 0.15 first and then adding the two together at the end, second? Isaiah, how do I do it? Do you know why? Can you explain why 1.15 works? You're right. The answer is you take $50 and multiply it by 1.15. And when you do that, if I take $50 and multiply it by 1.15, I get the answer of $57.50 with one calculation. Okay? Now here's why. And this is the important part, and I want you all to copy this down. I want this rectangle right here to represent the $50. Okay, so I'm going to put $50 here. Now, what percent would that be if that's the shirt? How much of the shirt is that? That's 100% of the cost of the shirt. So this would also be 100%. Now, on to that cost of the shirt. It is a shirt, right? We're going to put a little dotted line here. And that little addition is going to represent what? That's going to represent 15%. Agreed? 15%. So the cost of that is going to be 15% of the $50. Now here's a question. What percent of the shirt am I actually paying for? What percent, if you look at that picture, what percent is the total cost of the shirt? Yep. It's 115%. Would you agree? Because that's going to be the cost I pay for the shirt. So if I say to you, what is 115% This is a grade 8 outcome. How can I express 115% as a fraction, since it's a percentage? What kind of fraction would I make if I translate that to a percentage? Because percentages are out of 100, right? Fractions out of 100. What would it look like? Yeah. Right, it would be an improper fraction, wouldn't it? That's 115% as a fraction. What is that as a mixed fraction? 1 and 15 hundredths. Agreed? And what is 1 and 15 hundredths as a decimal? 1 and 15 hundredths. Does that all make sense to everybody? If it was if the shirt was $50, and there it is right there, and the tax was 15%, then the total cost of this item that I'm going to be paying for is this green box, which is 115%. If I consider 115% to be a fraction, it's 115 over 100 as an improper fraction. As a mixed fraction, it's 1 and 15 hundredths. And when I say 1 and 15 hundredths, I automatically am able to write it as a decimal. So therefore, technically, if I'm doing this as a one-step equation, the cost of the shirt is 115% of $50. Because it's the cost of the shirt and it's the 15%. So it's 1.15 times 50, which is, as Isaiah saw earlier, is $57.5, or add an insignificant zero, and we have $57.50. The next question, similar but different. What's the cost of a $240 watch with 20% HST? Well, mentally, 10% of $240 is $24. So doubling that, 20% would be how much money? $48. Take your $240 watch, add on to it your $48, your final price, mentally, of that watch with 20% HST is $288. Now, with a calculator, if this is the cost of the watch, and this is the tax of 20%, this is 100% of the cost, and this is 20%, what percent of the watch am I going to be paying for? 120%. So 120% of 240 is 120 over 100, which is 1 and 20 hundredths, which is 1 and 2/10, which is 1 and 2/10 of 240. So if I multiply that 240 by 1.2, 120% of 240 is 288. Everybody good with that? I'll pause that and you can copy it down. Our third question says, what's the cost of a $36 shirt with 5% HST? Same thing. So 10% of $36 is how much money? $3.6, which is also known as $3.60. So 5% in relation to 10% is half. So half of $3 is $1.50. Half of 60 cents is 30 cents. $1.50 and 30 is $1.80, and therefore 5% is $1.80. So the cost of the shirt plus the $1.80 HST means the final price of that shirt is $37.80. So, not to beat a dead horse, but if that's 100%, and that's 5%, we will be paying for 105% of the shirt of $36. 105% is 105 over 100, which is 1 and 5 over 100, which is equal to 1 and 5 hundredths, not 5/10. Because if you put 1.5, you're actually finding 150%, right? 1.5. So therefore, we have this multiplied by 36. I'm hoping it's 37.80. 1.05 multiplied by 36 is 37.80. Any questions with that? I'll pause that and you can copy it down. Now we get on to some different ones. Here we have a question that says the cost of a $144 fan with a discount this time of 10%. So if you think about this as a mental math question, 10% of 144 is move the decimal one spot, so it's $14.40. If that's a discount, we take our $144 fan and subtract $14.40. Now, since when I line up my decimals, that's how you do subtraction without a calculator. When I line up my decimals, I actually have to borrow here. 0 take away 0 I can do. 0 take away 4 I can't do. So I'm going to borrow from 144 and make it 143. Make that, instead of being 0 cents, this dollar that I really borrowed from right here is how many dimes? 10 dimes, right? And that's why when I borrow one, that's why this becomes a 10, because that's now 10 dimes. That dollar that I borrowed from $144 is becoming 10 dimes. So 10 dimes take away 4 dimes is 6 dimes. $3 take away $4 I can't do. I'm going to make that. So that $10 that I took away from that second place value becomes in the ones. Instead of $3, it's 13. $13 take away 4 is 9. 3 take away 1 is 2, and that's what I end up with. Sorry, forgot my 1. 129.60. Okay. So the cost of the fan with a 10% discount, when you subtract $14.40 from 144, you get $129.60. I think, right? Now, calculator. Can anyone tell me what I would multiply? Let's do it in two-step first. So two-step, 10% of 144. 10% as a fraction is 10 over 100, which is 1 over 10, which is 0.1. So 0.1, which would be 10% of 144. 10%, if you want to put the insignificant 0 because you like it, go ahead. But as soon as I press that multiplication button, the calculator will take it away and say, you don't need that 0, dum-dum. I'll be like, oh, sorry. 144 is 1440. Then, take your $144, take away your 1440. And it's going to probably tell me it didn't need that 0 again, but anyway. And your answer is $129.60. Same answer. All right, that's in 2 steps. That's with multiplication and then subtraction. Who could tell me how to do it in 1 step? Just one person, really? 2 people? All right. I'm going to give Hayden the benefit of the doubt. Hayden, what is it? 1 step. Just one time. What one calculator move? What are you going to do to get the answer? Jack's got it first. Go. Not by 1.1, because if you do 1.1, you're going to get a 10%, not discount, you're going to get a 10% tax. You're going to be adding on 10% more to it, not subtracting it. Do you want to try? Somebody said it over here. Go ahead, Isaiah. If I do this, and I'm going to show you this, let's pretend this is the box again. You're right, Isaiah. That's the cost of the shirt, or the, what is it we're buying here this time? Fan. That's the cost of 100% of the fan. Do I have to pay for 100%? How much is coming off that fan, percentage-wise? What's the discount off that 100%? So if I put a line right down here and say this is 10%, and I put a line away saying that's the discount, would you all agree that this red box is what I'm paying for? Right? And what percent's that? That is going to be 90%. So I'm going to be paying for, if I have a 10% discount, 10% of $144. That's what I have to pay for. Agreed? Or, as Isaiah said, 0.9 times 144. If I grab my calculator and say, what is 0.9 multiplied by 144? It's $129.60. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, copy that down. So yeah, just in effect, instead of paying for 100%, when you have a 10% discount, you have to ask yourself, what percent of the item's cost am I paying for? And in this case, it's 90% of $144, and therefore 90% of the decimal is decimal 9, multiplied by 144, and you get your answer. The cost of a $30 meal with a discount of 25%. Mentally, 50% of $30 is $15. Therefore, 25%, which is half of 50%, is half of $15, or $7.50. If you take your $30, take away your $7.50, your final answer is $22.50. That would be the cost of the meal. Now, With a calculator, Isaac, with one step, what would I do to calculate the cost of my meal in one step to the calculator? That's the meal's cost. Not 0.85, no. Your subtraction's a little off. Ah, there we go. So if this is 100% of the cost, am I paying that for my meal? No. I get a 25% discount, which is this much. So 25% comes off the price, which means what percent am I paying for? I am paying for 75% of the meal. So 75% of $30. 75% is a decimal, because 75 over 100 is 75 hundredths. 0.75. 0.75 times 30 is $22.50. Same answer. Oh, the things you learned today. Today is a special day to be here. If only those 11 students were here for me, I would be able to not have to teach this ever again. But I have a funny feeling I'm going to... Good idea. That's why I'm making the video. You're right. Our second last question says the cost of an $800 phone with a 3% discount. Remember, mentally, what's 1% of $800? What's the strategy for that? I move the decimal spot twice. So 1% is going to be $8. Agreed? And 3%, which is 3 times as much as 1%, would therefore be 3 times $8, which is $24. So the cost of the phone minus the $24 discount means the cost of that phone is $776. Okay, that's it. For a phone, yeah, I think I made this question a couple of years ago. So yeah, at the time, phones were probably a little bit cheaper than they are today. With a calculator, if this is the cost of the phone and I have a 3% discount, what percent of the phone, Jack, will I be paying for? If that's a 100% cost, don't worry about it, Jack. Time's up. Danny, what percent of the phone am I paying for? Say it again. 97% of the cost of the phone. Or, if I have a 3% discount, I pay for 97% of the phone of 800, and 97% is 97 hundredths, which is 0.97. And therefore, hopefully this is 776, otherwise I look like a fool. 97% of 800 is $776.